it's Nicole. Welcome back to the channel. For today's video, I have a new collection from ILNP. This is their new Throwback collection for summer 2026. The Throwback collection features 6 brand new cream finish shades to the brand's Studio Color line. This collection is very much a 90s throwback, which I am definitely here for. The Throwback collection will be available starting this Friday, June 26th on the ILNP website. ILNP is also available on Etsy and Amazon, and I will of course have everything linked in the description box. Because this is ILNP we were talking about, this release is not considered limited edition and it should in theory be around for quite a while. The polishes featured for this swatch review were sent to me by ILNP in gifted PR. Are you seriously snoring right next to the microphone? The brand sent me these in gifted PR. This video is not sponsored, but thank you so very much to ILNP for sending me these polishes. And I'm sure some of you are saying that this color story looks very similar to a collection that came out last week. So yes, there will in fact be some comparisons to the Holo Taco release. So as always, in the description box, links to where you can pick these polishes up, links to the brand's social media pages, my social media pages, and of course timestamps are down there as well. And as I just hinted at, there will also be some comparisons later in the video. Let's just get right into this one. The first polish up is called Flip Flops, and ILNP describes this one as a neon bubblegum pink cream. Flip Flops had a pretty okay formula. This was one of the polishes in the collection that I found itself level just like a little bit slower, and it was just shy of needing thinner. In truth, I feel like I probably should have added just like a little squirt of thinner to this one, and I feel like if maybe I added thinner, it might have behaved a bit better. This was one of the polishes in the collection that I could really very easily see the texture that I have on my nails. For all of my swatches for this video, I have on 1 layer of a peel-off base coat and then 2 layers of a ridge filling base coat before I did any of my swatches. And I find for the most part, I can get away with that combination for like an even-ish surface. But for this polish in particular, it really wanted to settle into like the nooks and crannies of the texture on my nails. So because of that, I'm gonna call this one a 2 to 3 coater depending on application style and I suppose your nail texturedness. If you have some significant ridges or you're growing out damage, I would probably recommend like 3 layers of a ridge filling base coat if you really want like the smoothest surface possible. In truth, I was going back and forth on whether or not I wanted to add a 3rd one just because like I felt like looking at this, I thought this was gonna be like an issue. I will say as far as the color of this polish, I do agree with the brand. This is a very much like a bright neon pink. It's very bubblegummy, very much in that neon pastel family. This has like a lot of white in it. However, I didn't find it to be chalky at all. I will say, however, I do feel like this one has like a very slight kind of salmon-y lean. I feel like because this is a warmer toned pink that like it just has like just this hint of salmon. My hands tend to lean fairly warm toned. I didn't get lobster hands with this at all. But I just found it just to like be just like a smidge towards salmon-y. My full hand swatches for Flip Flop shows this one in 2 and 3 coats. On my problem nails, which is my middle finger and ring finger, I did swatch this one out in 3 coats, but on my pointer finger and pinky, those are in 2 coats. And this is gonna remove super duper easy because it is a cream. The next polish up is called Beach Bum, and ILNP is describing this one as a bleach neon peach cream. Beach Bum also had a really good but definitely thicker formula. Similarly to the last shade, I found this one's gonna be another 2 to 3 coater. On my more textured nails, I feel like I was just shy of needing a 3rd coat just to cover up the overall unevenness. I don't feel like it showed up too badly on camera, but in person, I could definitely see just like a little bit of dark spots on those nails. So I will call this one a 2 to 3 coater. However, for my full hand swatches and the live swatch, I did swatch this one out in 2 coats. I did find this one self-levels just like slightly slowly, but it does indeed self-level. I do agree with the brand's color description for this shade. This is very much a bright neon peachy orange. I do think for those of you who have more textured nails, once again, I would recommend either adding an extra layer of whatever smoothing base coat you use, or you might end up having to add an extra layer of polish just to smooth everything out. I really love colors like this, especially for summer. This is a fantastic pedicure color. I feel like I say that every single time I swatch anything that's in this kind of color family, but very much so, this is definitely a pedicure color in my mind. And this will remove super duper easy because it is a cream and I did not personally experience any staining. The next polish up is called Unbothered, and ILNP is describing this one as a neon bleach chartreuse cream. Unbothered had a not not bad formula, but I did go on a journey while swatching this one out. This one was very, very, very thick. I thought initially that I'd be able to swatch it out without having to add any thinner to it. However, I discovered while on my third coat, I was just like, yeah, I feel like this could be easier. Let me add some thinner, and shocker, it applied much better with some thinner. I wouldn't necessarily describe this one as being chalky, but it didn't have like the perfect application either. It did apply a bit better after I added thinner to it, but I do feel like this is going to be a slightly more finicky application for people. So with that being said, I am going to call this one a 2 to 3 coater depending on your application style and how stubborn you are at not adding nail polish thinner when it should probably add nail polish thinner, which I'm not terribly surprised at. Like a yellow that is like this light in color is a little bit more finicky. I still wouldn't say it has a bad formulation per se, but I feel like if there's going to be a color in this collection that throws people off and gives like a more, you know, finicky application, it's probably going to be this one. That being said, I absolutely love it. I do agree with the brand's color description at calling this one a bleach neon chartreuse. It is very much that kind of highlighter neon yellow color, but it has a whole lot of white added to it, so it's very light in color but still super, super bright. I did notice, however, this one does seem to dry down slightly more sheer than it initially applies, so depending on your application, you might end up adding a third coat because it dries down a little bit more sheer. I noticed even on my nails that aren't super textured that I had a little bit of unevenness after this one dried down for a little while. My full hand swatches show this one in, once again, 2 coats on my pointer finger, 2 coats on my pinky, and 3 coats on my middle and ring fingers. Even though this one was a bit more on the finicky side, I can't help but love a color like this. Like this kind of tone just makes me super, super happy. I love a chartreuse. And I know I'm showing some bias here because like I really love yellows in general. And I remember hating the application of yellow creams, but also still buying yellow creams because I just really love them a lot. For a yellow being slightly more finicky, I will accept it from a yellow. I wouldn't accept it from other colors, but from a yellow, I will accept it. I will note, while I didn't personally experience staining with this shade, I did find that while I was swatching it out, that kind of yellowy pigment definitely wanted to stick to my nails a little bit. So I did add a little bit of cuticle remover to my nails after I swatched this one out just to make sure I got all of the yellow pigments off. Was it completely necessary? Probably not, but I just had a couple of polishes from the Holo Taco collection that really wanted to stick around. So I'm trying to prevent as much staining as I can on my nails, okay? So super easy removal, and you may or may not have staining with this one. I don't know. Like I feel like the potential is there. Like if ever there's a color that's going to stain me, it's probably going to be a chartreuse, truthfully. The next polish up is called Low Tide, and ILNP is describing this one as a classic bright turquoise cream. This one was definitely on the thicker side. I personally liked how this one flowed a lot more after I added thinner to it. I wouldn't necessarily say you have to add thinner to this one, but I just like the consistency more when I added a little squirt of thinner to it. This one had fantastic coverage. It self-leveled really nicely, and it was just shy of being a 1 coat. I do agree with ILNP that this is a very bright turquoise shade. I did notice that this one seems to lean just a little bit more blue toned on camera than it appeared in person. It is a very cool tone turquoise. I would personally say that this one leans more strongly towards green than it does to blue, but I would in fact call this one a turquoise as well. My full hand swatches show Low Tide in 2 coats plus glossy top coat. This one does dry down a little bit dull, so you will definitely want some glossy top coat, but y'all know my feelings on whether or not you should add top coat to all the things. Yes, add top coat to everything. And super easy removal on Low Tide because it is indeed a cream. I did not notice any staining, by the way. And honestly, most excitingly from this collection, the next one up is called High Tops, and ILNP is describing this one as an electric cobalt blue cream. High Tops had a fantastic formula. This is another one of the polishes in the collection that seemed to dry down a little bit more sheer than it initially applies. I'm gonna call this one a 2 to 3 coater depending on nail length, application, and nail texturediness. When I was swatching this one out initially, I thought I was really good in 2 coats, but I noticed on my more textured nails that I felt like I was seeing both the texture on my nails as well as like a little bit of visible nail line. I was sitting there for several minutes and I was looking at my nails and moving them around and lighting, trying to determine if what I was seeing on my nail was VNL or if it was like the texture of my nails. In truth, I wore this one as my weekend manicure and I don't think it was visible nail line, but my full hand swatches do show this one in 3 coats.
What the fudge pickle?
For those of you with sensitive noses, I will give a warning. This one does have that lovely funky blue smell.
A smelly smell that smells smelly.
If you don't know what the funky blue smell is, you clearly don't buy enough of blue nail polish. And while this one does have that kind of funky blue smell, it does dissipate very quickly. Like once the polish dries down, you're not really going to be smelling that blue anymore unless you have a habit of like huffing your nails when they're like kind of still curing. I absolutely love this color. When I saw this one in the bottle, my mind immediately went to Sally Hansen's Pacific Blue. I feel like if you've been in the nail polish community for a while, you would know that that is like the OG summer blue. And yes, I will in fact have a comparison of the two together. Unsurprisingly, I love this tone of blue. It's absolutely beautiful. Another note for this shade, this is gonna be one of those kind of blue shades that I noticed that for my big DSLR that I do all my swatches on, I found that this one was very color accurate there. However, I noticed when I took a picture of this one with my phone camera that it was a completely different tone of blue, which I find happens a lot for blues in this kind of color family. I'll put a picture here for what I'm talking about to see the color difference. I would describe this one as, it is indeed like a cobalt blue, kind of like a summery cobalt blue. It's slightly toned down, but also still kind of bright. Like I feel like it has this like a little bit of white added to it. My full length swatches show high tops in 3 coats plus glossy top coat. Super easy removal on this one. I'm actually still wearing this one from when I swatched it. I did take it off of my thumbnail and I don't have any staining on my thumbnail, but I will put a note on screen if I had staining on my other nails. And the final polish in the collection is called As If, and ILNP describes this one as a vivid magenta cream. As If also had a fantastic formula, but this one was just a little bit on the thicker side. Not so thick that I felt that I needed to add any thinner to it. I found it flowed really nicely, applied very nicely, and self-leveled perfectly as well, but it was a little bit thicker. In my personal opinion, I do agree that this is indeed a magenta. I feel like it's a very pink leaning magenta as opposed to a more purple leaning magenta. This was just shy of being a 1 coater on me, but as always, my full hand swatches and my live swatch show this one in 2 coats. I really like the color and tone of this polish. As far as overall brightness goes, I feel like this does not necessarily scream summer to me. I do agree that it is indeed bright, but I just feel like this kind of almost berry leaning tone makes me just think of fall. Super easy removal because this one is a cream and I did not personally experience any staining with it. Let's get into some comparisons because I'm sure I'm not the only one who is curious how this one compares to that last neon collection we saw. Alrighty, first up to compare to flip-flops, I pulled out ILNP's Strawberry Shake, Day Trip, and Sorbet. So first off, I pulled out Strawberry Shake, not because it's the same finish. This is actually a Crelly polish, which I think they call speckled for ILNP. I pulled this one out just for a color reference because I thought that this would be a bright but also light tone of pink that might be comparable to flip-flops. They're 2 different tones of pink. Sorbet over here is actually a jelly finish, so it's not opaque. Again, I pulled this one out for a color reference. It does look like Day Trip is pulling very red toned on camera for some reason, but it's not red. This is another pink shade. It's just a more darker, more saturated tone of pink than flip-flops. And then over here to compare to Beach Bum, I pulled out ILNP's Cream Pop and then ILNP's Potassium. Once again, these were largely just for color comparisons. I didn't have anything in the ILNP catalog that I thought was similar to this one in color, even in other finishes. This is you can see this is very peachy. I feel like it's coming across a little bit more peachy on camera. It's a peachy orange in person, but it's quite a bit brighter and lighter than the other 2 shades here. And to compare to Unbothered right here, I pulled out Squeeze Me and Honeybee from ILNP. So Squeeze Me I pulled out as a color reference. This was the only other kind of neon-y bright color like this that I had from the brand, but this one is also a kind of jelly finish. You can see here with my hand here that it is not in fact opaque. Besides the 2 finishes of these polishes being different, I would say the biggest difference in person is that Unbothered has more green to it. Like this is very much that kind of bleach neon bright chartreusey kind of color, and Squeeze Me is more jelly finish with a more yellow tone. And to compare to high tops, I pulled out ILNP's Oasis, Bottoms Up, and Minted. Color-wise, I wouldn't say any of these are like that similar color-wise. I feel like Low Tide and Bottoms Up are coming across very similar on camera, with Bottoms Up being a bit more kind of blue toned. In person, I would say Bottoms Up is not quite as bright. I would say this is more like blue with a dash of green, and this is more kind of turquoisey in nature. And I feel like the most important to me personally comparison is going to be for high tops. So to compare to high tops, right here is high tops. Here is ILNP's Tribute. ILNP's pullover. Right here is Sally Hansen's Pacific Blue. And then right here again is ILNP high tops. So I did high tops twice on this swatch wheel. When I initially just had these 4 here, I felt like high tops and Pacific Blue were looking identical in most light sources. So I added high top again right here so I can better compare it to Sally Hansen's Pacific Blue, because like in my mind that was the most important comparison. So I feel like it's very obvious that it is nothing like these 2 ILNP shades here. Okay, I'm gonna say this now. I have never once said to myself that Pacific Blue looks purple. It does not in fact look purple at all. However, side by side to these other blue tones, it has like this teeniest droplet of a purpley tone, or maybe even like an indigo kind of color in comparison to high top. I would say, however, in more yellow tone lighting, I feel like these 2 are practically identical. I would actually describe these 2, if you can't find the beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Sally Hansen Pacific Blue in the original formula, I would say that this is a really good runners up. There are other brands who've also done Sally Hansen Pacific Blue dupes. Moonshine Manny immediately comes to mind, and Night Owl Lacquer also has one, but the ILNP is definitely a really good runners up for this tone. I had on high tops for the entire weekend, and I kept thinking that I had Pacific Blue on my nails, so like I feel like they might not be like exactly identical, but I feel like the vibe is definitely there. And then finally, to compare to As If, which is looking very red on camera for some reason, I pulled out Love Letter, Melted, and Ube, all from ILNP. So the biggest difference between As If and Love Letter, As If, I would say this leans a lot more pinky toned than Love Letter. I would say As If is very like summer to fall, and Love Letter is more kind of darker, like wintry kind of almost. Here are some quick comparisons of the ILNP color compared to last week's Holo Taco shades. Over here we have Summer Scandal, and over here we have Boardwalk Behavior. The ILNP shade is quite a bit lighter. Like I feel like it's light in color like the pink is, but like it has just like this tiny dash of like a peachiness like this shade over here. And then I also was asked to compare this polish to China Glaze's Flip Flop Fantasy. This is not the newest iteration of Flip Flop Fantasy, but it's not the original formulation of China Glaze Flip Flop Fantasy. Unfortunately, China Glaze has reformulated this one again since they renovated their bottles last year. So I would describe this one as like the 2nd generation version of Flip Flop Fantasy, and the new one is like the 3rd version. I truthfully can't remember the color differences between them, but like it is indeed a color difference. And then over here for Afterglow, I only pulled this one out because I know it was similar to Flip Flop Fantasy, but I was just kind of curious to see how it compared to the ILNP shade. I don't really talk about oily on this channel anymore for very obvious reasons. So yeah, don't yell at me. I'm just showing for color comparisons in case anyone liked this and wanted something similar. I also wanted to compare Beach Bum to these 2 shades as well, because I feel like these are also like a little bit peachy. Like I suppose like they're more salmon-y, but I feel like I could see someone describing these as peachy. So here they are next to a more orangey peach, and these are more like salmon-y leaning. And then I also wanted to pull out China Glaze's None of Your Risky Business to compare to Beach Bum, because I thought they'd be more similar, but None of Your Risky Business is a lot more orangey. And another color comparison wine, over here we have Trop It Like It's Hot. This is not from the original release. This is from the re-release China Glaze did like 2 or 3 summers ago for Pride Month. So this is like a newly formulated version of it. Over here we have China Glaze's Lime After Lime. In truth, I thought Trop It Like It's Hot was going to be a lot more similar to Unbothered, but it's really not. Unbothered is quite a bit lighter, and you can see Lime After Lime is a lot more green. And then here is a bottle shot of the ILNP Unbothered with Holo Taco's Saltwater Taffy. I also wanted to compare ILNP's Unbothered to Cert Colors Electric Daisy. Electric Daisy is quite a bit brighter. Like I think if you added a whole lot of white to Electric Daisy, you would get Unbothered, but they're not the same color, even though they both are like neon yellowy greens. And then we have ILNP's Unbothered over here, Holo Taco's Saltwater Taffy over here, and then China Glaze's Troublemaker over here. So Troublemaker over here is significantly greener in color than these 2 other shades over here. I would say both the Holo Taco and the ILNP have quite a bit more blue in them. I would say the ILNP is significantly bluer in color. Also, I feel like this one might get ugly bottle syndrome. I don't know if you can see, but there's like quite a bit of green UBS on this. And then I also had a request to compare Low Tide to China Glaze's For Audrey. I feel like you can tell these two colors are very, very different, but if you can't tell, For Audrey is a bit more muted in color. In truth, I've always been really surprised at how muted For Audrey is because I don't really think of it as like Tiffany blue in my mind. I don't really feel like it's quite as vibrant. I've honestly wondered more times than not if potentially my bottle might have faded before I got it, because like it's always been this color and I never really considered this like Tiffany blue. It always seemed like a little bit too muted for that. And then here is Low Tide next to Holo Taco's Peer Pressure. Holo Taco's Peer Pressure, this one is quite a bit more blue in color than the ILNP. For high tops, I pulled out Holo Taco's Peer Pressure from their recent release. And then over here we have Orly's It's Brittany Beach. In truth, I feel like the only reason it was requested to compare this Orly shade to the ILNP shade is because the graphic ILNP released on Monday that features the first reveal of this collection, it's not color accurate in my opinion. I feel like the photo that they released, it does indeed look a lot like It's Brittany Beach, but it's not that color at all. So yeah, that's fun. But I will say, I had initially thought that the Holo Taco and the ILNP colors are gonna be like super duper similar, but they're not nearly as similar in person, I would think. I would say that the Holo Taco shade is quite a bit dustier, not nearly as bright as the ILNP shade, but I mean, they're both pretty blues, but I feel like the ILNP looks better, in my personal opinion. And then I also wanted to compare high tops to Cert Colors Rhapsody in Blue because it's my favorite cobalt blue. I feel like you can see the color difference between these two shades. Rhapsody in Blue is just like a smidge deeper in color. Like I'd say it has more saturation than the ILNP shade does. I feel like I would put both of these in the cobalt blue family. If you twisted my arm, I would say that Rhapsody in Blue is more of a true cobalt blue, but I could see both of these being described as cobalt blue. And the final comparison is for As If and then Holo Taco's Dockside Drama. Dockside Drama is a lot cooler in tone in comparison to the ILNP. Like I feel like the ILNP is pulling like super pinky toned on camera, especially next to the Holo Taco. Okie dokie, so final thoughts time. Okay, I absolutely love this color story to pieces, and just like I've said multiple times already for this video, I fully acknowledge that this color story is very similar to the Holo Taco collection from just last week. In my personal opinion, I don't feel like this is a very groundbreaking color story. I feel like if you've been in the nail polish space for any number of years, we see these exact colors every single year, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but I feel like this is a very summery lineup, hence why we have seen this kind of color lineup before from other brands for summer. And I don't know, I eat it up. I love summer collections. They make me very, very happy. They're so bright and they're fun, so I'm not mad at all. I touched on this a little bit with my Holo Taco review, where like for me personally, I feel like for a cream finish nail polish, that is going to be the most easily like skippable finish as far as nail polish goes, because how many cobalt blue creams does one person really need?
1 million.
Collections like this are very much a filling holes if you don't have a color like it already, or you just like to collect things. That being said, for the polishes themselves, I was really happy with the formulations of these polishes. I feel like ILNP doesn't know how to release a bad polish anyway, but I just feel like the overall color story, the overall how the polishes performed, how they looked, I'm very, very happy with this one. As far as my personal top pick of this release goes, I feel like if you've been paying attention, you can probably guess which polish is my favorite, and that is gonna go to high tops. If you need to know one thing about me, this girl is a sucker for a cobalt blue. I am a sucker for a blue cream in general, but cobalt blue anything, it's my weakness. It truly is my weakness, and I'm okay with that. I love them. I will say though, I also really liked Unbothered because chartreuses, also another weakness of mine. I really enjoy them. As far as pricing and sale information goes, the Throwback collection will be available starting this Friday, June 26th on the ILNP website. All of the polishes in this collection are gonna be priced at $10 each. ILNP has a 12 ml bottle. Yeah, 12. I don't have a bottle here. Pretty sure it's 12. Because this is ILNP we were talking about, this release is not considered limited edition and it should be around for quite a while. If you are waiting for a sale for these polishes, for the first weekend they will be available. ILNP will have these priced at $10, not $10 off, that's free. They will be priced 10% off, bringing them down to $9. There will also be a bundle listing available that also will be listed at 10% off for the first weekend. After the first weekend, everything however will go back to the main price, and ILNP's only real sale that they do every year is going to be their Black Black Friday sale. Occasionally they will send out coupons via email to people, but it's completely randomized and I haven't gotten one of those coupons in like over 6 years. So I am very jealous of the people who are still getting those coupons because I'm not one of the people. I would love to know what everyone else thought of this release. Do you feel like it's too similar to the Holo Tacos or a different release that has a similar color story? As I said in the Holo Taco video, one, I don't think people have to buy everything, and two, I don't see a problem with brands releasing similar things. So yeah, let me know all of your thoughts and feelings about this collection. Before we end today's video, I want to give a very special shout out to my channel members. Shenanigan Story fans, your names, of course, all on the screen right now. If you would like to sign up for my channel memberships, there is a link for that in the description box, or you can just click join next to the subscribe button. But as always, that is completely optional. Just like the video, comment on the video, subscribe if you have not yet already, and we are good around here. So just thank you all for joining me for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a lovely week, folks, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye! Also, I'm sure somebody wanted to see the rest of the shirt. Hide your kids. My kids can see this. They're used to this kind of thing. This is the full shirt. This is the Ass of a Killer Pride Edition shirt. Happy Pride! The Throwback collection features 6 brand new cream finish nail polishes to the brand's, the Throwback collection will be available, and ILNP is describing this one as a neon, and ILNP is describing this one as a neon bleached pink. Damn it, no. And ILNP is describing this one as a neon, well, damn it, no. I don't feel like this particular color story is like particularly, that's a lot of particulars. I would love to know what everyone else thought of this. Excuse you.
When I get high, I ain't looking at the clock, still ballin' like Brock. Yeah, I'm headed to the Bucks, then I'm ballin' like yeah.